I'm joined in the studio this week by Celia Yopita, Director of the Center for Refugee Support with Catholic Charities. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me here.
Also, Nedia Herbik, she's Syrian, came to the U.S. in 2002 as a refugee and later became a U.S. citizen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to start with you, Nedia. President Trump issued the executive order on immigrants and refugees last week, and then there were protests, including here in Albuquerque at the airport. What do you want people to hear from yourself this week? What do you wish people would know?
I want them to know that Syrian in general and Syrian refugees are not a threat to this country, or not just to this country, to any other country. People are escaping war, should not close the door for them. America should stay as a refuge place to give them safe, a good life. Even if they don't want them to have them as to become a citizen or resident, they can make rules just to have them safe for the meantime until the civil wars end. But really, it's not right to close the door for refugees or for any nation, or to even single nation out of many nations, to single the refugees and to single the Syrians or the Yemenis, the Libyan, Sudanese, Iranian, Iraqi. None of these countries actually were or are a threat to the United States. This is by fact.
And your family is still in Syria?
All my family in Syria.
And I would imagine you're very concerned about them these days.
I am. I have just to make one point that it's not like the Syrian, it's easy to come out and to get a visa to the United States and just come here. It's really hard for people to get visa, the Syrian people to get visa. It's hard for them even to get out of Syria to any neighboring country, because most embassies left Syria since the war. The American embassy, one of the embassies now, is in Lebanon. To go to Lebanon is not easy now for Syrian to go to Lebanon. It was easy before, and getting harder and harder now to go even to Lebanon or to Turkey or to Jordan. But even this option now is not on the table for people. So I'm worried for them. I was hoping just at least one of them or few of them can come just for a visit and just to feel they are safe for a couple months. This option is not happening anymore, and I don't have this hope anymore.
And looking back on your own experience, how challenging was it for you to get your own visa to come here as a refugee with your husband?
Oh, it's so hard. First, I came here to this country because my husband came in 2000 as a refugee. So as we got married in Syria, so I followed the same status as he is. I supposed to follow him within like 6 months. It took 2 years to get the visa, because the process to take the visa is so long. That's when they say now we are just doing extreme vetting. It's already in place. It's not something new. You won't even believe the amount of paper they ask you to bring. You don't believe the background check. You have to bring everything like you never been commit crime. You have never done anything wrong in your life, and you bring all this paper to the embassy, and they don't just look at it. They ask you for more. If they are missing, they ask for more and more and more. So it's not easy to come, and it's already. They really make sure the people they come to this country are not a danger to. They are not danger to this country.
Celia, it seems like for a long time people haven't talked much about refugees and about the process. Are you finding that Catholic Charities is maybe educating the community about what people experience right now?
Yes, definitely. We're very happy to do that, and we're finding ourselves doing that more and more. I think maybe one of the good things to come out of those orders is that I think many people who realize they need to step up and help are coming to us, and as well to Lutheran Family Services, which is another refugee program in town. They've received calls too of people who want to help. So we are very happy to share the information we have, to share both the information we have about what's going on nationally, but also what you can do here in Albuquerque if you want to help refugees who are already living here, who are already resettled.
What is the role of Catholic Charities in resettling refugees in New Mexico?
somewhat recently, we actually switched from resettling, meaning we stopped welcoming people to come in just a few weeks ago, and are shifting towards supporting the refugee families that are already here. For the 20 plus years previous to that, we did contract with the federal government to receive refugees who were resettled. But going forward, our hope and what we'd like to be successful at is to support those families that are already here by getting more input and more involvement from the community.
And what are you hearing from families that you serve right now this week?
There's a lot of fear about what is going on. I think Neda has said a lot of that. That is the fear. What about their family members who are still in process? Many of them do have families from the 7 countries that are saying right now they will not be allowed to come in. The entire refugee program nationally excuse me, has been shut down through May 27th, so no one is being processed anywhere with a few small exceptions. But we've had folks like Neda was just saying who were waiting already for months or a year, and now we have to tell them, well, you're going to be waiting longer, definitely, and it could be indefinite if they're from one of those 7 countries.
And can you remind folks what are some of the countries that people have come from in recent years that have arrived in Albuquerque?
We have a lot of folks from the Middle East and from Africa. So certainly several of the 7 countries that were named in Trump's orders, as well as sub-Saharan Africans, so folks from Congo and from Burundi. We do have folks from other parts of the world as well, but the majority would be from the Middle East as well as from Africa.
Neda, what's been your experience finding work, becoming part of the culture, getting that process of becoming a U.S. citizen? What are some of the things you think would surprise people about your experience as a refugee?
There is a concept about people coming to this country. They think they can come, take our job. They don't think of us as can I be successful, we can contribute to this country, we can contribute to the culture in many ways. Also, we work hard, we pay our taxes, so we have rights, and we have also, we take and we get, we give and we get. So for my experience, from friends, always they surprised how I kept working. I started working the minute I came here. Start to have friends. Also, going back to school, learn more English, become more sufficient on the way I communicate with people. See what the best to me. Go back to school, take some classes. Okay, what the best. So it was surprising because it's not the idea. Some people they say, "Oh, how come you are doing this?" But I have to say, over the years, we experienced, my husband and I, especially me as a Syrian, I don't know why there's kind of misunderstanding, misconception about Syria, stereotype about Syria. And even in Trump's order ban, Syria is indefinite to have any people from this country. So I heard like some racist over the years, but I don't stop of them. Always I look at the people, say something positive about us, something, say, oh, good for you, Neda. That's really what you have done, what you are doing is something really good. So this is what I focus. I focus on the positive, not the negative. And I want them to know this is who we are as a Syrian.
Mm. So for people who maybe don't have English skills when they get here, is that an additional challenge of getting to know folks locally and being part of the community?
Oh, it's an enormous barrier. It's an enormous barrier. Refugees come with various levels of English ability. Some of them are fluent English speakers, but the majority are not, and some of them have not a word of English. And they find very quickly that many doors are closed to them because they just can't even get out the first few words to tell whoever why they're there. And I think that is harder than to get engaged with the community. The volunteers who've worked with our program, one of the best things they've done for us is to try to bridge those gaps, to try to get with our clients out in the community, getting them to know people and places and things so that they feel like this is their community. And that legally everything should be accessible to them, but in practical terms it's not. And so we've relied a lot on volunteers as well as our staff and amazing interpreters like Neda who has helped us to help our clients to get integrated in the community, feel like it's their home, feel like they can get help if they need it, feel like they can learn to make friends, learn to get engaged, and it'll become their own community.
Do young people and children have a different experience?
I think they do. Many young children end up being the only English speaker in their family. Children do learn English a lot faster than their parents do just because of their brains. So they carry the additional burden of sometimes being the translator for their family. And an 8-year-old may go into a doctor's appointment and be translating things she really should not be aware of or know about. Or they're talking to the landlord on behalf of their parents. So I think there's an even bigger burden placed on them. And that doesn't even mention the trauma that they may have gone through and the violence they may have experienced. So we do have a mentoring program that matches adults with children. And the point of that is to help them get away from all that, to be a child, to have fun, to not be responsible for everything for their family for a few hours a week. And we do really think that's made a big difference in just their overall happiness.
Netta, for you, as we move forward in the coming months, what are some things that you're going to be watching and that maybe you want, you would hope that the community here in New Mexico would be talking about when it comes to refugees?
First, I don't think we're going to see any refugee from Syria or other of these 7 countries coming soon. But I think all of us, we should be standing together and helping the refugee already here. Have them go forward, make the best out of, they are already good, they need just the help. And as Celia mentioned, I work with the refugee interpretation, and they have a wonderful service for that, and they make sure like people, they know their right, everything about education, working in school. So I think we have to have the community to engage in helping the student, tutoring the student, have a student tutoring to their student. As an adult, reach the adult. Tell them it's home, should not be afraid. Tell them actually what they're right. What is the whole ban? What does it mean? Go over with them, read it one by one, because all of them are really scared now. And I get many phone calls, people, they think they're gonna be deported from the country. Because it's so vague, they don't know where they stand at this minute. Especially the one that haven't got their green card yet. And they don't know the language. So basically they hear the story, one said, other said. So they don't know exactly what to believe. So I think our job to help them understand what this ban means, or whatever they call it now, and help them just to be successful in this country and to feel safe, because this is what this country is about.
That's all the time we have. Celia, we will put links to your program, and if people want to know more information about how they can get involved, we'll put that on our website, newmexicoinfocus.org. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.